Hello, Wolf, back here on Bitcoin, and we've just had the weekly close and the 3-day close that we were talking about in the last video, and they've been very important closes, and so without further ado, let's jump into what they mean. As for the 3-day chart that we're on right now, we had this 2.5 year long RSI uptrend, right? RSI support line that we tested 1, 2, 3, 4 separate times on 4 separate occasions, one of which lasting for 3 months, right? And we've just actually closed below that for the first time on Bitcoin, which is a massive bearish step in the wrong direction. And we've actually, lost that now. And so now that kind of big piece of supporting bullish evidence that a lot of people have been using is gone. A 2.5 year uptrend, losing that is very significant. 2.5 years is a long time, and we held that uptrend since December or November 2018, and so losing that now on a 3-day candle close, and a convincing one at that, right? It wasn't a small close below. We convincingly closed below this. We've completely lost that, and there's not really any chance of getting back above there. After a test for support, we've calmed down, we've dropped below it. It might come up and test it for resistance again. We'll have to see what happens, but that is broken. That structure is fractured, and so that's a bad step for Bitcoin. You can also see on the 3-day chart, by the way, I don't look at the 3-day chart a lot, but what I can see on the 3-day chart that I've just brought up quickly is not only did we reject from the market support band, but we also rejected from the 50-day SMA on the 3-day chart as well, and we've head down from that region. And the 200-day SMA, or 200 MA on the 3-day chart, I should say, is at around 35,000 right now. And so that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Usually when we lose the red line, we end up at the green. I'll bring back up right now. The one exception throughout the entirety of history has been this drop here in May to July. So it doesn't have to happen, but typically we head downwards to the green once we lose the red, and we have lost the red now. So it's terrible news. It's really bad news. And the other thing we have to look at on Bitcoin is the weekly chart. And we'll remove all of these indicators right now just to get a clear look at what's actually going on here. What we can see on the weekly chart is this green box, which is our major support zone on Bitcoin. And that box is sitting between 40K and around 42.5K. Now, what is typical of drops or lurking within this region? Because guys, before I say anything else, this region, this box here, has been where basically the line in the sand has been for Bitcoin throughout the entire of 2021, right? When we're below that, we're pretty bearish. When we're above that, we're pretty bullish, right? And that's kind of been it. It's kind of been the halfway point. And we've come below it and above it multiple times. But what we'll notice is that every time on Bitcoin, okay, that we, for example, if we're testing it from the downside, if we wick into it and don't close within it, we stay on the downside, right? If we wick into it and don't close within it on the upside, we stay on the upside. Again, we stay on the upside here for a bit. We stay on the upside, right? We stay on the upside. If we wick into it, don't close within it, we stay on the downside. What is interesting now, okay, is that we've actually closed within it. Okay, and so this trend of wicking into it and continuing from, where we came from, is gone now because we're within the green box. And what this means, basically, on a very fundamental and a very core level, is that Bitcoin is not showing the strength it showed in somewhere like September going into this support, right? In September, we very clearly wicked into it and very clearly closed above it. Right now, we're failing to close above this box that has acted as the critical support region and resistance region throughout the entirety of 2021. We've actually closed within it. Yes, it's still technically holding, right? We didn't close below it. However, it's a very convincing sign of weakness on Bitcoin that we're no longer able to just wick into it very quickly and then come right back up and everything's still fine. Okay, we're actually struggling a little bit to hold on to it, and so the next few weekly closes will be very telling. Do I think that it is unlikely that we'll see a bounce from this region? No, not at all, right? I think it is very possible we'll see a bounce from this region. I've said that multiple times. However, these two things that I've been looking at here with the RSI and the 3-day chart, right? The RSI and the 3-day chart, and also closing within this box on the weekly chart, has made me less confident, okay? I think that now there is, I would have said previously I would have been about 80%, 80% in favor of bounce here, but right now I'd say I have to bring it down a substantial amount to the point where I'm not even sure if it's the most likely scenario anymore. But look, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter. We know where our invalidation point is, okay? The place in which we need to be getting to in order to be actually bullish on the market again. I mean full bullish in the sense that in order to actually be thinking about, going back to all-time highs, is breaking above 53k. And the reason being is because if we see a bounce, it is very likely it could take us all the way up to 53k, which is the height of the last shoulder, right? If we're performing a head and shoulder pattern, okay? If we go above 53k, we would have overrun the shoulder. We would have taken back the bull market support, okay? We would have taken back the 50-week SMA. We would have taken back a lot of things, taken back the Gaussian, we're closing with it currently. There's a lot of a variety of things, specifically I went to the daily chart I could show you, that if we closed above 53k, we would be back in bullish territory. We'd actually be in this region up here in which we held the support as well. 53k is very much the place in which Bitcoin wants to be getting if we're going to see new all-time highs at some point. As long as we are below 53k, the next logical target is for 200-week SMA, okay? That's very important. I said that in the last video. Say it again. As long as we are below 53k, which is our critical breaker, the next logical target in the medium term or long term, whatever you want to say, 6 months to a year for Bitcoin, is the 200-week SMA, okay? And that, by the time we get to it, let's say the earliest possible time we'll get to that, as per my analysis with Megawell Crypto, you can go watch that. The earliest possible time we'll get to that is July, and so that's about 6 months away. And so at that point in July, I'd probably be lurking in the 25k region. So until we get above 53k, we're targeting the 200-week SMA. We're very bearish on the market. And what I will say as well is that this green box is extremely important, because if we lose this green box, the next logical place for Bitcoin to go is 30k, right? There's not much support in that 30k region. In fact, there's an abundance of support. We can see this volume profile here showing us so much support, but the vast majority is coming from the 30k region, okay? As for the daily chart, nothing really changed in the daily chart at all. We lost the bullish divergence through this drop down. MACD cross is coming in bullish, right? If we maintain this area a little bit longer, we could see a bullish MACD cross, which could actually trigger the bounce up or rally up, right, to around the 48k to 53k region. Ultimately, I think we'll reject. We're seeing a def cross incoming, although in the last year, def crosses have actually led to bullish price action after some immediate drops and then bullish price action. We have to assume the worst, and they are technically bearish indicators, and so we have to assume they'll lead to bearish price action. And as for the 9 EMA, this blue line here, let me remove some stuff here, sorry about that. The 9 EMA, that is acting as resistance within the 43.5k region as well, which kind of comes up and lines up with what we've got here on the 4-hourly chart, which we can see at around 43.5k. We have that resistance block there, but what I'm looking at for the most part is this double top rejection here on the 4-hourly chart at the 42.8k resistance, or you could just say 43k resistance. And so, look, there's a lot of resistance and a lot of support. And so right now, what we're just doing is kind of just waiting and seeing. What I can say, and what I have been saying throughout this entirety of this correction, is that there are pretty startling similarities between the May to July correction all the way to the July, so this May to July period. There are insane similarities, okay? They look very similar, and we could very well be seeing something very similar to that, in which we consolidate for maybe a week or two more, 2 more weeks, and then see that dead cat bounce up to 53k. But ultimately, even if that happens, it would still be bearish, would still be forming a head and shoulders pattern, although a very distant one, but it'd still be a head and shoulders pattern, and we look bearish in the market, and we'd be targeting the same region, which is the 200-week SMA. So regardless of what happens here, doesn't really matter, right? Until we get back above 53k, I don't care what happens, because nothing is significant. So 53k is for sure the only place that I'm actually concerned about. Until that happens, all I care about as well is the 200-week SMA. So you're going to be hearing a lot of this kind of talk, especially if the market goes down for the next 6 months, right? But that's just the facts of the situation. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to lie to you, right? I'm going to constantly be here to reinforce the same opinions. And that is the opinions that I've learned through, time, countless thousands of hours studying technical analysis. And I can tell you right now that is the most logical thing to happen in terms of technicals. And that not the most logical thing to happen, but that's the most logical pathway to take, and the most, successful pathway to take in this kind of market environment right now. Multiple analysts agree with me. 53k is the critical breaker. Until that happens, nothing matters except for 200-week SMA. We're in a blank space in the market right now, and that's from an investor's point of view, right? That's not to say that you can't be trading. You can always trade, Altcoins are always, they're always setting up for potential here. And, Bitcoin's always got potential to trade as well. And just because we're trending downwards, it doesn't mean we won't see bounces, okay? You can trade the bounces. We drop down. We don't drop down flat. We drop down like a tennis ball. We bounce. Every bounce gets lower and lower and lower until we bottom out and someone picks us up, right? It's a tennis ball. Think of it like a tennis ball. But that's what I got to say about the market right now. And that's what I'm going to be repeating for months and months and months. Obviously, I'm going to be adding new pieces of information. But look, it might not be months and months and months. I think the time frame is, a little bit, we're not too sure. We only have a few data points here. And so it might not be months and months. Who knows? We could get there in 2 months, right? We could get there in 6 months. We could get there in a year. We don't really know how long it's going to take to get to 200 week. That's assuming we get there at all, right? We could very well go up to 53K and break back above. The reason why I don't care if that happens, and the reason why I'm not too stressed about buying in this region is because, the wolf pack sold. If you listened, right? And I'm not saying you should listen. I'm not a financial advisor, but from my personal opinion and my personal perspective and what I did, and that's all I can go off, right? I sold my coins, and I was encouraging people to sell their coins at 66K all the way down to 63K. In that region, I was selling, okay? And so if I buy back at 53K, I've still missed out on a 10K drop on Bitcoin. I'm buying in 10K lower. So I'm happy regardless. I don't care if you go up to 53K. If you're in a different situation, you might have to act differently. But that's my personal kind of thing. It's a win-win either way. If I buy it at 200 a week, I'm getting cheap Bitcoin. If I buy at 53K, yeah, I missed out on some gains between 41 and 53, but I also sold at 63. So I missed a 10K drop as well. I saved myself a 10K drop and all the stress that comes off that. So that's all I got to say, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.